Hello, friends, and welcome to Weirdcast. We're going to once again dive into the realm of the strange and bizarre, and I am so excited about today because I received a comment. James G. asked me what I thought about InfoWars and Secureteam 10, and those are actually really interesting questions because, those are two fringe sources of information. And I frequent them, to see what they are talking about. So let's start with Secureteam 10. This is a really interesting YouTube channel that consistently uploads UFO and alien-related content. And I was actually in touch with Tyler from Secureteam when I was doing the show on Machinima. And I was going to do an interview with him, asking him all about his program and his content. And he was pretty receptive. He just sort of stopped responding. So the communication sort of teetered off. And he was really busy at the time as well, as was I. I think he is a real interesting grassroots effort to open the dialogue up about aliens and UFOs. So I fully support Tyler and Secureteam 10. I think their content has continuously improved. Is everything legitimate on Tyler's site? Not necessarily. I think he receives a lot of content from his viewers, so he's very open-minded, and I'm sure he has featured content that has either been debunked or just had no credibility. But that doesn't mean that, we have to be careful when we talk about credibility, because I think we have this habit of seeing one loose thread and then throwing the whole sweater away. And that's not really the best way to discern information. To me, that's a way of trying to hold on to your worldview, and the moment you see anything that's a threat, you put a blanket over the whole thing because it's been discredited. I don't really agree with that approach. I think you have to review every bit of content that comes out through those sources. But I like Tyler. I think he's doing a great job. I often check his site to see what's new. And by all means, keep checking out his stuff. And speaking of Secureteam 10, I was surprised that he didn't feature this footage, which I'll show you right now. This is a video that went viral that a friend of mine tagged my name in and was curious about my response to it. And in return, I tagged Jeremy Corbell, who's more knowledgeable, more credible in that space than I am. And he responded with a pretty comprehensive overview of the whole alien UFO situation and where it stands currently. But if you watch this footage, it's interesting because my first thought was, it's fake because it looks too much like The Arrival. Right? It's too similar to the size and the design of the ships in that movie. Nevertheless, I love this footage. It gets my mind going, and I can get excited about this kind of content. And, I hear stories about people who are out in the waters that will see these sorts of crafts and this activity. The USOs, the underwater submerged objects that apparently rise up from the ocean and fly off into outer space. So it's anyone's guess what we're looking at here. But I don't know. Lots of people are saying it's fake. I'm going to say the jury is still out on this one. You also asked me about InfoWars and Alex Jones. I don't frequent InfoWars as often as people might think I do. I first became familiar with Alex Jones from the movie Waking Life, where he was featured as an animated character as himself, talking about Republicans and Democrats being two sides of the same coin.
What a bunch of garbage, liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican. It's all there to control you, two sides of the same coin. Two management teams bidding for control, the CEO job of Slavery Incorporated.
And that was the first time I was sort of introduced to that idea that maybe this divisive two-party system is a ruse and it's more of an illusion. There's a lot of information out there that point to the Rothschilds and their money essentially having investment on both sides of the political system and propagating these wars and things that keep us moving in an odd direction. And David Seaman also said some interesting things recently about them that I definitely recommend you check out him. He's much more knowledgeable about politics and that whole realm. I think InfoWars is interesting, but at the same time, they're like any other news network where they're professionally broadcasting. They have their sponsors. They make money, just like a lot of these organizations do. I like InfoWars as a form of entertainment because Alex Jones is just funny to watch and how excited he gets about certain topics. But at the same time, I think the InfoWars was affected by independent journalism as much as mainstream media was. So in a way, InfoWars sort of is mainstream media in their own way. They have their own agenda, and they are careful about how they talk about subjects. And recently, Alex Jones came out and addressed a lot of the Pizzagate stuff and was really kind of trying to put water on the fire and downplay it a bit. And, it was interesting because while he was doing that, he still encouraged everyone to continue investigating, but to really keep their eye, on the other aspects of WikiLeaks and the emails that were surfacing through John Podesta's hacked emails and Hillary Clinton. And that whole story, which is just really dominating the channels of fringe news networks to a point where I can understand, people kind of getting tired of it. You kind of have to be careful with that because on one hand, it does get a little old, seeing the Pizzagate stuff continue to pop up and you kind of want it to go away. But, I feel like that's also playing into exactly what the people who may be negatively affected by all this information would want you to do. Alex Jones also was one of the people who was straight up calling Hillary Clinton a demon for quite some time, and I really enjoyed that. I like I just thought that is so extreme, and some of the demonic images that came out of Hillary Clinton were pretty entertaining. So, the only thing is that you just have to watch where this becomes partisan, because the moment it starts to push you in the side of the right wing or the left wing, you can get sucked into that two-party system, which I have my doubts about. I really try to stay on the sidelines and just observe this concept of Republicans and Democrats, and I have a hard time subscribing to either. It's all so it's always felt like political theater to me. And I think Alex Jones and Rush Limbaugh really only have 1 degree of separation. The two sort of spout the same kind of rhetoric. One's just a bit more over the top than the other. And, but I don't necessarily disagree with everything those guys say. I think there's actually a lot of valid points. And I get suspicious when anything gets cut off or censored. And there's a lot of left-wing extremists that would be overjoyous to see Rush Limbaugh 100% silenced. So then I want to listen. I want to know everything that he's saying. I live in a town here in Hollywood where leftist thinking is the majority. So I naturally become curious to hear the right-wing side because it feels like censorship when everyone's telling me to only pay attention to the left side of the spectrum. So I would encourage you to listen to both sides. So thanks for asking me a question. I'm honored to give you my thoughts on it. So one of the topics I wanted to cover today was human genetic experimentation. We've come up in a society where the very notion of splicing human genes is taboo, and rightfully so. That whole arena of experimentation is very disturbing and ethically controversial for good reason. But it is fascinating. And the kind of default response you get when asking that question, can human DNA be spliced with another species, is no. It's always been sort of a scientific rule of thumb that it's impossible, that there is no way to crossbreed human DNA with other animals. And then along comes this guy in Russia who has been uploading a series of videos where he, in his basement, has spliced a chicken egg with human sperm, and he's creating these things called homunculus, which are really creepy, fleshy-looking things that are moving around. And I took a look at a lot of the footage, and I'll show you some clips right now. This stuff is pretty interesting. I can't say for sure that it's real, but we're looking at what this guy claims to be genetic offshoots of chicken eggs and human sperm. And at one point, he even gets attacked by one of these things and squashes it with a book. And this is the most extreme moment, so it's also the moment that triggers the most skepticism. But I would take a look at it yourself and form your own opinion about what might be happening here. If genetic crossbreeding is possible, then who knows? Maybe there are species that truly are a cross between humans and other animals. But with growing up, having everyone tell you it's impossible, there is that part of your, my mind at least, that starts to question it and say, well, is that just something that we've conditioned ourselves to believe? Or, is human crossbreeding with other animals a possibility? That movie from 2009 called Splice comes to mind, where you had Adrian Brody and Sarah Polley, who are these two genetic engineers who are really delving into that science of splicing human DNA with other species, and you end up with horrific results. It's a pretty cool movie, actually, with lots of really gory effects and very disturbing themes. I would recommend it if you haven't seen it. Anyway, take a look at this guy's site. Let me know if you think there's any validity here. And if you haven't seen Splice, check it out. It's a pretty awesome horror movie. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.